and welcome to the CEC17. It's a privilege and a pleasure to see so many of you gathered together for this second international transdisciplinary conference on the many issues that arise when discussing the topic of climate engineering. At the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies, the IASS in Potsdam, we've been doing research, assessments, and communication about climate engineering for over 6 years since a scoping workshop that we held in 2011. Our approach to this topic fits in with the general approach of the IASS, working as a platform to bring together all relevant forms of knowledge from science, society, and politics in order to initiate and support transformations towards sustainable development that are grounded in scientific research and help us to face the grand challenges of the Anthropocene. The conference we are opening today builds on the success of the CEC17, the first conference of this kind, which we hosted with our partners 3 years ago. Perhaps these conferences will serve as the start of an ongoing series to discuss issues related to climate engineering in the broader context of climate change. The CEC17 comes at a critical point in time, following on the 2015 Paris Agreement. In the Paris Agreement, as is well known, governments agreed to restrict global mean temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius and to pursue efforts to limit it to below 1.5 degrees. As far as we know, it would still be physically possible to stay within these limits by drastically reducing the emissions of greenhouse gases, especially CO2, as well as other climate-forcing pollutants, such as black carbon and soot. However, this would require reducing emissions to near zero within the next few decades. This seems highly unlikely, given the societal and political inertia that we experience around the world and the resulting current emissions trajectories. Recognizing this has led to often controversial discussions about 2 additional possible approaches to limiting the effects of climate change. First, actively removing CO2 from the atmosphere, and second, directly modifying radiative forcing by either causing more solar radiation to be reflected back to space, or by letting more terrestrial radiation escape through the atmosphere in order to cool the Earth's surface. Together, these have often been called climate engineering techniques. And according to what we have learned from the IPCC assessments, though not impossible, it would be very difficult to achieve the Paris Agreement goal of even staying below 2 degrees Celsius global warming without resorting to at least one, if not both, of these forms of climate engineering. In light of the uncertainties, the potentials, the risks, and the global impacts that would come along with climate engineering, especially in the broader context of the uncertainties and risks of climate change itself, we are in need of an open, transparent, and critical engagement with the questions surrounding research, regulation, and the arguments in favor of and against large-scale technical interventions in the climate system. The debate needs to involve different scientific disciplines, as well as the perspectives from politics and civil society. And this is where the CEC17 steps in. CEC17 is intended to serve as an opportunity for a diverse audience of policymakers, civil society organizations, and members of the public to critically engage with current research and the broader discussions that surround the topic of climate engineering. Further, it is providing a forum to not only present and discuss research results, but also to review the state of discussions around climate engineering and to scope key research questions and challenges for academia and for society. We're also striving to provide a forum for capitalizing on innovative session formats to address the complexity of the issues around the topic of climate engineering, while allowing for open discussions on equal footing, as well as providing a platform for networking, collaboration, and exchange across the disciplines, across sectors, particularly academia, policy, and civil society, across countries, continents, and across generations. Over the course of 4 days, we will have a total of 32 sessions and 5 plenary discussions, as well as a public panel discussion in cooperation with the House of World Cultures. Going beyond the CEC17, this time we've encouraged the session conveners to choose innovative and interactive session formats, and we've continued and expanded our efforts to gather representatives from a wide variety of groups, sectors, and communities. We've also focused on including more participants from developing and newly industrialized countries, for which we have partnered with the Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative, the SRMGI, which is holding a meeting straddling the CEC17 this week, bringing in many participants from the Global South, in particular from Asia. We have many prominent session conveners, panel discussion participants, and speakers at the conference, some of the leading voices in the field, as well as the presence of active NGOs, in part thanks to the Heinrich Böll Foundation, and active intergovernmental initiatives, in part thanks to our partners, the Carnegie Climate Geoengineering Governance Initiative, or C2G2. And with that, we will now move to the highlights of this opening session. 3 talks giving us a broad set of perspectives on the topic of climate engineering.